Rob, and welcome to Axel's Garage. Well, we just shot a video on our 1-year Fiber Fix review. And if you don't know what that's all about, I'll put a link to that video we just shot right up here. And you can use that one and the other Fiber Fix videos to find out what Fiber Fix is all about. It's a repair app and whether it works or not. But while we had the car up, jacked up, I said, you know what? We've been talking about putting that lift kit in for quite some time. We did a review on it. We did an unboxing. We spoke about the stock heights of a TJ, and we have all those videos in a playlist called the TJ Lift Kit. Now, we bought the lift kit, we did the unboxing, we went all over that stuff. We took a stock TJ, we took this TJ, and we did some measurements along the chassis rail to see where a stock TJ sits and what the lift kit is actually going to do to it. So being that we jacked it up and took the wheel off for the Fiber Fix video, I said, you know what, we might as well get started on that lift kit. It shouldn't take all that long. It's going to take a little bit longer because we're going to do a couple little extra things while we got everything apart, just to help preserve these Jeeps, because anybody who has one knows they tend to rot like crazy underneath. So we're going to do a little cleanup while we're down there, and we're going to do a step-by-step on how to install that lift kit. It's real easy. Shocks and springs. It's only 2.5 inches. It shouldn't be a real big project, but we're going to get started. So the first thing we did was jack the car up and took the tires off, and we have the 2 jack stands on the chassis rails as far back as we could get them, right where the rear lower trailing arms meet the chassis. We got them right on the chassis there. This way they're supporting the vehicle weight by the chassis, and we want it to be supported by the chassis, not the rear end, because we need to let that rear end float up and down as we install the springs and the shocks. So what we have is a floor jack under the center section of the rear differential, and got the Jeep up on the jack stands. And now what we can do is jack it back up again to get the rear up under the car and not have it hanging all the way, and spray a little PB blaster on the shock bolts, and we're going to take the shocks out first. That'll be the first thing we do, is a shock on one side, and then we're going to try to see if we can get the spring out on the one side. We might have to take them on both sides. But we'll give it a shot and see what happens. So let me get some tools out and we'll get that shock out. Alright, so that was a 15 and an 18 to get the lower bolt out, and it looks like it's a 14 to get the 2 uppers out. And let me go get a 14 on an extension, and we'll see if we can. That's a 15. Alright, we'll see if we can blast those 2 suckers out up there. They're rusted pretty good. Hopefully they come out easy. Yeah, the 13 seems to fit on there nice. Alright, one came out. Now the other one is right up against the chassis rail, and the deep socket's going to have a little trouble getting in there, so I brought out a regular shorty to see if that will get me a little closer. It looks like it did. Not getting on that head of that bolt good. Alright. And that shock came out, and you can see these shocks. I mean, this is just a dust boot, but they were starting to rust. They have a Chrysler logo on them, so they were probably the original ones. This thing's got is a 98 with 105 or so thousand miles on it, so it's probably time anyway. Alright, so now with this shock off, the jack under the center section what I'm going to do is just lower it down. Now the rear is not going to fall out because it's still, I mean, not fall out of course, but it's not going to hang too low where you'll damage anything. I just want to get it down enough, and maybe I could just push on this a little bit just to get this short rear coil spring out on this side. Alright, so that's as down as far as it'll go. I got a little bit of playroom, not much. Alright, so with a little bit of persuasion from a crowbar, those little short springs are in there awful tight. But they came out. The spring was also pretty rusted against the bottom part here where it centers it and up top, and they were kind of stuck. I'm sure the same might apply on your vehicle as well. A lot of dirt and rust and sand and grime. A lot of sand. I guess the sand gets everywhere once you go on the beach. Alright, so after getting it all apart and then blowing it out with air and getting all that loose crap out of there, there's a lot of flaky rust, a lot of stuff from inside the chassis rails. But blow out whatever you can get out. I did have a lot of sand in there, you know, a couple times on the beach, and it's loaded up with sand. Got all that out. So now I'm just going to take some all-purpose cleaner. I'm using Tough Stuff just because I have a can of it, nothing special. I'm going to spray everything down really good, and I'm going to hose it out really well. Well, after getting it all hosed off, we're all set for the next step. Now, like I said way back in the beginning, some of this stuff is extra stuff that doesn't need to be done. Yeah, I could have had the whole, back end done today, but I decided to clean it up. Why? Because these things just rot out. The chassis rot out from the inside out. The crap underneath just tends to rot, and when you have stuff apart and you can clean it up a little bit and paint it and try to preserve it the best you can, I think it's a good idea to do that. So I wasn't that greasy underneath. So blowing all the sand out and just the shit from inside the chassis rails and everything, blowing all that out with air and then spraying it down with a mild soap and hosing it out really good seemed to do the trick for me. If you have a lot of flaky rust, if you have a lot of grease in there, and you might have to get in there with a heavier degreaser and a scrub brush and scrub it down and then hose it all out and dry it out. Once it dries, if you have a nice non-humid day like it is today, I might be able to get this thing painted tonight. Otherwise, I'll have to wait till tomorrow, make sure everything dries in and out of all the grooves. I'm just going to use some aerosol POR top coat, and the only reason why I'm using that is because I have it on the shelf. You can use some kind of Rust-Oleum, you can use some kind of chassis saver paint, which I heard is it's real sticky and real good. You could do it with a brush, you could do it with a spray can, but I'm just going to give those chassis rails a good coating. My control arms, I'm just going to paint everything up with some rust preventative coating, and it's purely, not really cosmetic, it's more to help try to save the chassis and save some of these components so that you'll just have a longer life. And that's an extra step that we decided to do. But pretty simple. The only thing that we didn't show you on camera was in order to get that rear end to drop down a little bit. Now I got both coil springs out, and I had to pry a little bit like you saw with the crowbar to get them out, and I was thinking if I had to pry with the crowbar to get the short coil springs out, we're putting in coil springs that are a little bit longer and probably a little bit tighter. It's going to be tough to get them in. So how do I, without taking major components apart, how do I get that rear end to sink down a little lower? Real easy. You got your track bar, or they call it a panhard bar or something like that, but in the Jeeps they call it a track bar, and that goes from your chassis on one side to your rear on the other side. It helps center that rear differential under the vehicle. Well, all we did was just take the easiest bolt, which is the one right here on this side, up on the chassis, took that bolt out and popped that track bar out, and now that rear end came down a good 3.5 inches, probably almost 4 inches down lower than it was sitting normally, because that track bar was actually holding it up a little tighter. So that hopefully will give us the room we need to get those springs in without taking everything else apart. That's it for this installment of our lift kit series. We'll be back in probably a day or so, and we'll do another one where we put the back end back together. Hopefully it'll be all painted up by then. I'll get it painted, let it dry, and then we'll shoot a video getting that back end back together, get the wheels back on, and then we'll bang out the front end pretty much the same way. Everything goes in a little bit differently in the front, but it's pretty much the same, you know, front to back, and then we'll take some measurements and we'll see what we got. If you like the episode, please give us a thumbs up, and as always, if you like what we're doing here at Axel's Garage, please subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.